Welcome to episode 51 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm Ben Fadden here with a special guest, Ryan Cohen. I would say he's on the level that I am of being a diehard Padres fan. There aren't many that at least I know that are, on that level. So Ryan, thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Definitely a diehard Padres fan. Been that way for as long as I can remember. And I love talking Friars. So let's do it.
All right. So first off, I did want to get your reaction on this A's series. It was a great first game. We saw some progress, I thought, from Blake Snell. Then the second game, Joe Musgrove pitches great. He's going to have to do that the rest of the year if the Padres want a chance at winning the division. But then uncharacteristically, Pomeranz pitched well, but the bullpen, Mark Melancon, Tim Hill, they did not have their days. So just what were your thoughts on the A's series?
Yeah, I mean, obviously frustrating. I know it's only a 2-game series, but you got a chance to sweep a good A's team there coming into a homestand where you're facing the Diamondbacks and the Marlins. Definitely would have been nice to get both of those. Kind of ruined my evening. I was in a cranky mood last night. But I think my frustration has more to do with the at-bats after they went up 3-1. I didn't feel like there was really – I didn't feel like watching on TV that it was a competitive at-bat trying to get that 4th, 5th, and 6th run. And, yeah, Melancon gave up 2 in the 9th, which obviously a closer is not supposed to do that. But closers are going to blow saves every once in a while. And, you give up 3 runs in 9 innings, you're supposed to win that game the majority of the time. Yeah. So after scoring 8 the night before, I felt like the night before there were good at-bats all night long, even as they took that 5-1, 6-1, 7-1 lead. I mean, they were still grinding out full count walks, and Manny hit a double on a 3-2 pitch at his eyes. Like, there was a lot of good at-bats, and I felt like yesterday it just felt like the 5th, 6th, 7th. I forget which inning they scored a bunch of the runs, but it felt like as the game went on, it was just kind of going through the motions with the at-bats and hoping that they could hold on to the lead they had. And that was frustrating for me to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned scoring 3 runs, you should probably be able to win the game. But more to that, thing, I think with Joe Musgrove pitching, the way that he pitched, 6 strong innings, 2 hits, 1 mistake to Jed Lowry, you're supposed to win that game. And so that being a starting pitcher like that, in that situation, you do your job and then you just don't win. That has to be infuriating because they could have went with the 2-game sweep and instead it's a split. And so I said this on the podcast yesterday, hopefully that's not going to be one of those games where you look back at the end of the year and you're like, oh man, we should have won this game. Now we don't have home field advantage or something in the wild card game, or we don't win the division, or hope this doesn't happen, but we don't make the playoffs. So that's just, I mean, we could cherry pick. The Giants could cherry pick. Anyone could cherry pick these games that you're supposed to win that you don't. But again, it's frustrating because Melancon's been so good. It was 2 outs in the 9th, and then you give up the 2 runs. You're 1 out away. And I was saying if this was another sport, basketball, football, the game would have been over because you could just take a knee or something like that. But okay, so that's the A's kind of quick reaction there. Starting with you here, take me through how you became a Padre fan and your greatest memories kind of as a kid.
Yeah, so my family's not a huge baseball family. I think they've grown to love it a lot. Like, my parents now watch all the games, which makes me really happy. But they certainly weren't when I was a little kid and when the Padres were bad for a lot of those years. But I just, I was 6 years old and wanted to play Little League. And they said, sure, go play T-ball. You're just like every other kid your age. And fell in love with it, dude. And my mom will tell stories about me running out to the front yard to get the newspaper when I was growing up because I wasn't allowed to stay up past, whatever it was, 9:30 or however late the game went on a Tuesday night during the school year. So I'd sprint out to go get the newspaper at 6 a.m. And I still wake up super early every day. And I genuinely think that stems from getting up early to go, check the newspaper to see if the Padres won the night before. And then some of my best memories, I mean, as a little kid, my very first prominent Padres memory in my head was Matt Holliday not touching home plate in 2007. I remember crying on the living room floor I still haven't fully gotten over that, and it's been kind of torturous ever since. Um, my 7th birthday, I spent at Petco Park, and Trevor Hoffman got the save. It was a Sunday day game, and there's a famous line in my house where I said, "Is it Trevor time?" when Trevor came running in. So that's definitely up there. The 2010 season had a lot of fun memories, and then, been really, really lucky and gotten to experience some incredible things in these last few years as I've started tweeting and gotten to meet some of my baseball idols and do cool things like that. So the memories keep on coming, and I'm going tomorrow. Tomorrow's my 21st birthday, and I'm going with 30 friends to that game. So that's going to be a great memory again. And it's always the Padres at the root of it.
Yeah. Hopefully Weathers can pitch well. So you were known kind of during the non-contention days as, the guy dancing on the Jumbotron with the Wil Myers jersey. Where did that energy come from? When is it just, I just want to be on the Jumbotron. I'm here at Petco Park, the best place on earth. Where did that energy kind of come from, even though the team, wasn't doing well?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that anytime I hear music, I'm dancing along, whether it's driving or at work or doing homework or whatever. If I hear music, I'm going to be dancing and singing along. And when the Padres are down 12-4 in the 3rd inning, it was just kind of something to look forward to. It was fun to dance around. And there were many games I went to where I didn't get up on the big screen, and it was like, I got to exercise. That's how I started looking at it. It was like, well, I'm going to spend 3 hours sitting here. I might as well dance around and have some fun. And it became a little bit more of a thing than I ever expected it to. And now that the Padres are really good, it's honestly harder to dance around because the seats are filled. So I don't have room to move around. So people are like, "Oh, you're not dancing this year?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm still dancing. I'm just I'm not going insane because I can't, or else I'd be throwing elbows into everyone around me." Yeah. I don't want to send anyone to the ER because I'm trying to make a fool of myself. But the dancing, I mean, it's just, I'm just trying to have fun. And anytime you go to a Padres game, I think that's the best experience in the world. I have so much fun every time I go. And, I'm not going to say I deserve any of the attention that I've gotten, because I don't. But it became a fun little thing for a few years there in high school and into college.
Right. You want to talk a little bit about a fundraiser or raising money for, I see your shirt, you with Mud. I think Stephen Woods was there. Just, can you talk about what happened in that little wiffle ball park?
Yeah. So I'm the director for Camp Kesem at UC Davis. It's a free summer camp for kids whose parents have been affected by cancer. So it's a really great cause. It's an awesome cause. It's a national organization. I'm just the UC Davis chapter. And then Luke Pete, who's another diehard Padres fan, he's on Twitter. But I met it a few times at the games. He goes nuts. He's a great fan. Reached out to me through direct message and said, "Hey, I've seen the work you're doing for this camp. I have this wiffle ball field in my backyard, and when I created it, I wanted to make sure it would go towards something good and be used for something positive in the community. And I want to use your Twitter presence to get the word out and raise a lot of money for this camp and for these kids." And there was a small part of me at the beginning that's like, "Oh, this random guy wants to have me at his house. I've only ever met him in a couple games. Wiffle ball is fun," but I just didn't completely buy in immediately. But I said, sure, I'm not going to stop someone from raising money for something I care a ton about. So we started working together. And then after Joe Musgrove threw the no-hitter, Mark Grant went to Cafe Adesso, the Musgroves Cafe, and did a quick little, I think he signed balls and, met with fans or something like that. And Luke Pete met Mark Grant there and said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing with Ryan Cohen." And I've met Mud a few times now over the years. And I love Mud. Mud's the best, but that's a different story. So Mud hopped on board, and once Mud was in, you tweet that out that Mud's going to be there, and Padres fans were happy to throw some money down to play wiffle ball with Mark Grant. And yeah, Woods and Paul from the Ben and Woods show are there. Those guys are awesome. I've gotten to know them really well over the last few years as well, and it was a great event, dude. We had so much fun. I carried Mark Grant at one point. That's not a light man. No one's accusing him of being skinny, but he's a great dude. He's the best. And we raised a lot of money. But we had a lot of fun too. And I think that's what I'll remember. And it's awesome that the money's going to a great place, but I'm looking forward to doing it again next year because of how much fun I had. And it wasn't just this taxing day of sitting in the sun trying to raise money.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So moving to this year's Padres, are you happy or disappointed, with how this season has unfolded thus far?
I'm happy. I'm definitely happy. It's August 5th today. Most years on August 5th, I'm not checked out. Like I still care, but I'm certainly not watching every single pitch of every game because it matters. So I'm happy. I care. I'm glad that I care this much when they lose. Most years on August 5th, they lose. It's like, whatever.
Yeah, past years when they lose, let's say they lose that game in Oakland, it wouldn't be all these fans on Twitter, saying Melanson shouldn't be the closer and Daniel Hudson comes back. But now, do I disagree with that? Of course, but it's good that fans are still involved right now because of how good, the team is. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly my point. And I don't think anyone saw the Giants doing what they have done this year. In fact, I'm gonna say no one saw this coming. Not even the Giants saw this coming. So it's frustrating. I think we'd be looking at the season very differently if we were. Are we 3.5 back of the Dodgers right now?
Yes. Yes.
If we were 3.5 back of the Dodgers and the Giants,
yeah.
Right. So if the Giants were where they were supposed to be, which is third or fourth place, I think we'd be looking at the season a lot differently. Them having this miraculous run is frustrating because it feels like you had your time. Can we please have ours? And they're just kind of butting in our fun. But at the end of the day, I know the 1-game wild card is a crapshoot and anything can happen. In the playoffs in baseball, just get to the dance, man. Anything can happen once you're there. And it would be absolutely crushing to leave after 1 game. That would suck. If you lose 4-3 in that wild card game, that would absolutely suck. But at the end of the day, I expect the Padres to field a playoff team for the next 5, 7, 10 years. And if this year they get bounced after 1 game, as painful as that would be, as much as that would suck, it's not like the window ends this year. This is the beginning. And last year was the beginning, but last year was, it was a weird year to say the least. This is the beginning of the first real season. And yes, I would have wanted a more realistic run at the division, which is still possible, but it's seeming less and less likely as the Giants continue to win somehow. But as long as you make the playoffs, I can't really be that frustrated. I mean, there were so many years where all I wanted was 500. Literally, if they had gotten to 500 in any of those years, I'd have been like, look at our young Friars. Right. And now we're here and we're complaining about a team that's 13 games over. I forget exactly what it is, 13, 14, 12.
Yeah, 14.
And I'm pretty dang happy. I mean, I hope we get to see Tatis again because that's the most exciting player in the world. But they're in every game, and it's hard to complain about that.
Mm-hmm. What's your confidence level in Eric Hosmer and Wil Myers right now?
I love Wil Myers. I'll leave it right there. I don't love Eric Hosmer. Okay. I root for Eric Hosmer. I now hate Max Scherzer, right? I hope Max Scherzer gets in every single start. Mm-hmm. I hate Eric Hosmer. I don't hate Eric Hosmer, but I still root for him. That's the difference. I think there are a few Padres fans who root against Hosmer, which
that's the thing. That's the thing. That's my problem. Where there's fans where you can be a fan, right? Being a fan, you want to be emotional, you want to react, but like saying things like, "Oh, like it's one of the worst sights ever to see Hosmer on the on deck circle." Like you're supposed to be rooting for we get it. Preller knows this as well. This wasn't a great contract. And it's not going to be one unless a World Series happens with him on the roster. But with that said, at the end of the day, regardless of who's in the batter's box, you should be rooting for him because he has a Padre uniform on. And I think, like you said, that's not happening with every fan, at least that I see on Twitter. And I think that's where the problem is.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. And my frustration with Hosmer has more to do with the reputation he has in the non-Padres world, and which also correlates with the reputation Manny Machado has. Because I think Manny Machado has this hate on him that isn't deserved. I get that he did some stuff when he was in Baltimore and obviously in LA, but as a Padre, dude's been phenomenal, both on the field and just as a human, as a leader. So for all this hate that he gets, it's just like, what are you watching, when talking about Machado? And then all these guys are like, oh, Hosmer grinds it out and it's so gritty and, he's such a winner. What are you watching? Because I watch him roll over to second and just kind of jog it out to first. And I'm not saying you have to, David Eckstein sprint to first every single time.
And Manny jogs all the time too.
Right,
but,
which is fine.
But
it's the
there's a difference. There's easily a difference between Machado and Hosmer in terms of their production, in terms of what they provide to the team beyond just leadership in the clubhouse, which is one of those things that it's like people's now go to, like, oh, Hosmer provides leadership. Manny provides leadership too. We don't need that. You're not going to keep a guy just because of his leadership when you have Manny Machado in the same locker room, when you have Mark Melancon in the same locker room, you have Yu Darvish, who's been in the league for forever. There's people that can provide leadership that even when Hosmer isn't here.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And then, if you want a leadership guy, you go trade for like Stephen Vogt or someone who's, a great dude. Everyone loves him, but like Stephen Vogt's not going to win you a World Series with his bat. It has. And then my other frustration with Hosmer is defensively, because I just watching, I don't have the advanced statistics in front of me, but just watching, and I do a lot of watching, I have no idea how that man won 4 Gold Gloves, because it's like just stretch for the ball instead of swatting. And Eric Hosmer is a million times better for saying that I could do it. I get that I can't. It just seems like there are small adjustments that could be made that aren't being. And when Profar or Cronenworth or Nola is at first, it's like, oh, an athlete's over there. He can stretch and move to the ball and, make a play that hasn't been made all year. So I still root for Hosmer, and he's been better in July than he certainly was earlier in the year. And if he hits one big home run in the NLCS, Steve Garvey style, it's all worth it. I don't care. But
yeah, they'll just go retire his numbers.
Right. It's just, honestly, he hits that home run in the World Series instead of the NLCS, I'd retire the number. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think you can sense how I feel about Hosmer.
Yeah. All right. So do you think that the front office's priorities, when it comes to Myers and Hosmer, are there priorities in this coming off season? Does that include, trading Myers or Hosmer? Because we saw how it seemed like how hard they pushed for it, and that seemed like a big barrier because, of Hosmer's contract.
Yeah. It depends how they do in August and September down the stretch here. Keep in mind, the season last year started basically this time of year, like a week ago. Yeah. So, they have a great 2 months. Wil Myers has a 950 OPS over the next 2 months, and we're feeling pretty good about him. Yeah. Realistically, I think they're going to try and move at least one of them. I think the Hosmer's contract is more important to move because Will is up after 2022 anyways.
Right.
I, since the trade deadline, have had this feeling of, screw it. This is our team now. Like, I'm all in. I love these guys. Let's go to war with these. Like, I'm ready. These are my boys. Let's go. And I love Wil Myers, and I've loved him for a long time. And I would be heartbroken to see him traded. I understand that it could make the most sense for the team on the field, but as a fan, that would be heartbreaking. And I think, as we've seen with AJ over the last 5 years, 6 years, is that he wants to do certain things. He wants to trade for certain people. He wants to trade away certain people. But he's really good at staying to his value. And this deadline, we thought he was going to make a big trade. The Frazier deal was big, but we thought he'd do another thing after that. And he didn't see the value that he wanted. He saw what Gallo went for and decided that's not what he wanted, Gallo. And he saw what Scherzer went to for LA and all that. I trust AJ, and I think if he can find a deal where he can unload Hosmer and get a piece or two back, or find the right money dump, he'll do the right thing. Maybe he'll trade Hosmer to the Chicago White Sox for some, Elijah Tatis or something. We'll see. I trust AJ.
Let's talk about that Max Scherzer situation. Ken Rosenthal told me via email on Sunday before that game against Colorado that he wasn't going to reveal his sources when I asked him if he had checked in with any Padres sources before tweeting out that the Padres were close to getting Scherzer last Thursday. Now, I wasn't, he told me that he's not going to reveal any sources, stuff like that. I wasn't asking for him to reveal sources, just did you check with anyone from the Padres? Because I thought that if he did, then he would not have tweeted that out, because it was clear, at least what from AJ Preller said after the deadline, that, there was no deal. They weren't going to trade two of their top 4 prospects. So that seemed like to me that, Rosenthal got used, the Padres got used. What was your, reaction to that Rosenthal tweet? And then the aftermath of that, and your reaction when that Scherzer news came down from Passan?
I'll start with where I'm at now, and then I'll go back to how I felt a week ago. I think anytime there's a big name player traded like that, there are a lot of moving pieces. And I'm sure that Rosenthal had information that ended up being, I think he was told something by someone along the line that he trusted, and then that person backfired, and then Rosenthal reported too early. And I think there are a lot of people to blame for why Rosenthal tweeted that early. So I'll start there. Rosenthal's been a great reporter for a long time. I'm not just going to throw him under the bus. A week ago, I was so mad at Ken Rosenthal. I mean, just fuming, because it, at least on outside looking in, to me, it looked like someone in the Nationals organization said, "Hey, Kenny, we're close to dealing Scherzer to the Padres." And Kenny went, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, Scherzer close to the Padres." And then the Dodgers said, "Oh my God, Scherzer close to the Padres, our turn." And they stepped up and stepped forward when the Padres had no part in any of that. That's what it looked like. I'm not sure exactly what happened. For you to report that the Padres are close when you have been the guy, along with Passan, to break the trades for the last decade, I thought was irresponsible. I thought he tweeted it too quick. And you don't tweet "they're close," breaking "they're close," unless you really think it's going to happen. It'd be one thing if he said Padres talks heating up. Reporters say that all the time. I don't know what it means, but they say that all the time. Just like, oh, wow, okay, that could happen. But to tweet it with the all caps breaking and just the one sentence, it made it seem like the Padres were going to get Scherzer. And I thought that was irresponsible. I don't know how close the Padres actually were. I know what AJ said, but he has motive to not tell the truth in that situation competitively. And when you go from getting Max Scherzer, and I know we didn't actually get him, but in our hearts we got him, right? We thought we got him.
Yeah. To
losing him, that sucks. If he goes to Cincinnati or Philadelphia or Tampa Bay or wherever, damn, we could have had Max Scherzer. To lose Max Scherzer and then lose him to your biggest enemy, along with another great player who's the second best shortstop in the league for my money, behind Fernando, of course. I mean, just heartbreaking and gut punch. And I think I said it earlier, but I think there's 2 ways to go about it. It's either, wow, we really got robbed on that one, that just sucks, and kind of crumple into a ball. Or you can go, F it, dude. These are our guys. This is our team. We have a damn good roster. We knew we had a good roster. Would Scherzer and Turner help? Yes, they would help any roster. But we don't have them. And this is our team, and let's go. Let's roll. And this upcoming homestand, Diamondbacks and Marlins, they got to take 5 of 7 minimum. They got to get on a roll, dude. They got to win multiple games in a row and go, or else we're going to be battling with the Reds for that second wild card spot. And I still think they're a playoff team regardless, but I don't want to be there. I want that just momentum, go, take off. And I think Scherzer and Turner just coming to the team would have helped with that. But it's still a talented team. It's still a very talented roster, and it sucked at the time. It still hurts a week later. Seeing Scherzer punch 10 last night was painful, but I hate Max Scherzer now, period. I don't want him. Fuck, F him, I don't like him. And that's where we're at. So I'm proud of the team we have.
Now, we could also spin this positively for Blake Snell, for Ryan Weathers, for Chris Paddock. I know Paddock's hurt, but AJ, said not acquiring any starting pitching at the deadline. Not even a Michael Pineda or a Kenta Maeda, someone like that, or a Zach Davies. That, he says after the deadline at his presser that we just need our guys to pitch better. How much do you think that AJ believes that? Really believes that they can do that, they have the ability to do that consistently, especially with Snell. And could this be, a motivating factor for him and the rest of the rotation, saying, hey, he didn't trade for starting pitching. He believes in us. He didn't go get Max Scherzer. You know, he believes in us. Do you think that they can spin that positively that way?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, baseball players are definitely, um, superstitious and mental, and a lot of thoughts running through their head. It's a thinking game. So sure. Uh, well, as to what AJ said, if they had gotten Scherzer, they still needed Snell, Weathers, Paddock to step up. Like it.
Yes, to a degree, yeah. But especially in the postseason, you don't need 4 starters deep. You'd need what I would actually kind of like. You would need those 3 guys: Musgrove, Darvish, Scherzer, and then or another top starter, whatever. And then you have Snell, Lamet in the bullpen for short spurts. Weathers, I think that would be a pretty dang deadly combination. But yeah, go ahead.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. And look, I'm not gonna like sit here and pretend that Scherzer wouldn't help. Of course he would. Of course he would. That goes without saying. It's yeah, you'd love to think that they could spin it and go, okay, well, he believes in me, and now it's time for me to pitch better. But I don't think it's a lack of effort by any means. They're not consistent. They haven't been consistent all year, and maybe they can go on a run right now against bad offenses. And the Diamondbacks and the Marlins should not score a lot of runs at Petco Park this week. They just shouldn't. And whether that's because of their lineups or because of great pitching or a combination of the two, that could be a major momentum boost for the Padres and the starting pitching. And I think the other thing we're not talking a lot about is the fact that the Padres basically got 3 huge bullpen additions at the deadline, if you include Hudson, Strom, and Lamet. If those 3 can all come out of the pen and be who they've been in the past, along with Hill and Adams and Melanson and Pagan and Pomeranz, looks better too, by the way. You don't need the starters going that deep. And because the Padres played so many games in a row early in the year, they have all these off days coming up in the next couple months. They can do more bullpen games in critical must-win games. I'm not a huge fan of the bullpen game as a fan, but in terms of winning strategy, use an opener, use a bullpen game, because those guys are good. And you don't need Weathers going 7. You need them going 4, And in the playoffs, then you can go with Darvish, Musgrove, and whoever's riding the hottest out of Weathers, Paddock, and Snell. And then, just get to the bullpen as quick as you can. The Padres pitched bullpen games last year when they had 0 starting pitchers. Yeah. So the fact that they still have Darvish and Musgrove, who have been pitching, well enough, I still think they're in a good spot. And, if it is that wild card game, then I know we can beat the Dodgers, the Giants in a 1-game playoff. And I sure know we can beat the Reds if somehow it's us and the Reds, which I don't really see happening. But it's a fluke. The wild card game is a fluke. So anything can happen there. And then I feel good about this pitching in a 5-game series because of that bullpen.
What would your confidence level be if Snell, did start a game in the postseason right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
You got to keep him like 3 or 4 innings unless he's absolutely dominating.
Mm-hmm.
I love Blake Snell. Blake Snell is one of my favorite players in the league. I have a 24 Blake Snell jersey because I love that guy. And I think he still is an ace in the future. He has not been this year. He would be the first to tell you that. I still give him a start in the playoffs because, if he dominates in the playoffs, then I don't care about any of this regular season at all. It doesn't matter. And he has the stuff to do it. He's shown he can do it in the past. So, maybe that playoff start, for whatever reason, the different energy, the different locked-in-ness could, produce something that we haven't seen out of Snell this year. I give him a start if it's a 5-game series right now. I think I'd go Musgrove, Darvish, Snell in that order right now.
And okay, so that's interesting that you bring that up because odds are they don't win the division the way that it is right now. So you have Darvish wild card game, then you have Musgrove game 1 for a division series, then Snell game 2, then what? Then bullpen Darvish game 4. Again, like we have Strom, Lamet, guys like that can give you multiple Stammen, that can give you multiple innings. Paddock, hopefully that he can come back. but I think it would just be interesting the configuration of a rotation, especially with that wild card where you wouldn't have a Yu Darvish pitching, a game 1 or 2 in a DS.
If the wild card's tomorrow, I think they'd go the bullpen game.
In the DS.
And if the wild card game.
Oh, okay.
I think you ride Yu Darvish until he gives up a run, and as soon as there's any hint of trouble, you just go to that bullpen.
Okay.
Because in a must-win, bullpen games don't work over 162 because they would fall, their arms would fall. I mean, that would be horrible. But in a one-game winner-take-all situation, the best chance they have of winning that game, in my opinion, would be just riding the bullpen. And whether that's 4 innings because Darvish was able to give you 5, or that's 8 innings because Darvish could only go 1. I think you kind of have to just, as soon as there's any hint of trouble, go to that pen.
Yeah. Okay, so moving to Tatis, he's obviously on the IL right now, but when he does get back, hopefully everyone else is healthy. What percent chance right now would you give our team of getting to an NLCS? Because that means you'd have to get past the Dodgers or Giants in the wild card. You have to get past the other in the division series. That's a tough task, but I believe we could do it because of the bullpen, because of the options in the rotation, provided everyone's healthy. Hopefully Snell keeps making progress. Just what chance would you give that?
Yeah, I said it earlier, but I really think that you make the playoffs and anything can happen.
Right.
The Nationals were not the best team in baseball in 2019, right? They got hot at the right time, and that's the last real World Series championship we've had. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the Royals were the best team in baseball. I don't think the Giants were the best team in baseball in 10, 12, or 14. The Royals weren't the best team in 15. I think the Nationals were better than the Royals that year. Just, you get there and things happen. Obviously the Astros, cheating scandal and everything, but the Cubs were great, everything. But baseball shows that you don't have to be the best team to win it all. And right now, at this moment, the Padres are not the best team in baseball. I don't think that would prohibit them from making an NLCS or even a World Series run. And throughout the year, they've beaten the Dodgers. They've hung tough with the Giants. Early in the year, I was frustrated that they lost to the Giants because I still thought the Giants were going to be bad. I still maintain, and I'll say this right now, the Giants aren't good. They just keep winning. Their players are not good. They win. I don't understand how. I watch their games, and I don't understand how they score more runs than the other team every night, but it keeps happening. But I think the Padres are more talented than the Giants. I think the Dodgers are more talented than the Padres. But we've seen the Padres swept the Dodgers. The Padres went into LA, took 3 out of 4, the fourth being the 7-1 deficit on Sunday Night Baseball where they won. They can beat those teams. Are they great? Yes. But can they get by them in a 1 game and a 5 game? Yes. I really, really believe that. Yes.
Okay. One last one for that, kind of building off of that, saying that, I am just like you, confident that we could beat the Dodgers. We've shown it, sweeping the Dodgers, that last game especially, one of the top moments ever, for me being at Petco, the Cronenworth homer, waving Bauer off the mound, the Grisham walk, that was, the stadium was shaking. That was the loudest I've ever heard a stadium after a walk, and then the double play at the end with Machado. But my question, now that they're pretty much swapping, the Dodgers are pretty much swapping Scherzer and in place of Bauer. Does that, in your opinion, make that tougher for the Padres to beat the Dodgers, let's say, in a series because it's Scherzer instead of Bauer?
No.
Okay. Because I know that we've had success against Scherzer this year, but with that said, I feel like they've had more success off of Bauer. And Bauer, I just don't think he's as confident when he's facing the Padres.
I mean, Bauer hasn't been. Let me say this first and foremost. Trevor Bauer is a horrible human.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see him throw a baseball again. Trevor Bauer sucks. But if we're just looking at the baseball player Bauer, he wasn't necessarily shut down ace, but I think he was 7 innings, 3 runs in that game you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And the one where Tatis hit 2 homers off of him, that was 6 innings, 2 runs. It's not like he was bad, and he was dominating other than the homers. So I don't know if you remember, but a reliever hit a grand slam off of Max Scherzer. Yeah. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was there that night. I still am trying to wrap my head around it. That's a fluke. I mean, that'll never happen again in the history of the sport. So you can't rely on that to happen. But the Padres, I trust the Padres against great pitching. I don't trust the Padres against John Gray and German Marquez, because for some reason, those are the types of guys that can just shut down the Padres.
Who are good pitchers, but they're not on the level of the guys you're talking about. Yeah,
exactly. Right. The good, not great pitchers are the ones that really freak me out.
Or like the Merrill Kellys or something going into a Saturday night. It's like, we're going to win this game. And then maybe we do win, but it's like 4-3 instead of 7-2.
Right. Exactly. Merrill Kelly, dude, that guy has Padres number. I don't understand what it is. Because I'll watch him pitch against other teams like, this guy's not good. And then I'll just carve up the Padres lineup.
Yeah, like I'm writing a series preview for this Arizona series, and I'm looking at these guys, and they have 5 ERAs, and it's like, oh, well, it's probably going to be close this weekend. Like,
but it shouldn't be. Yeah, that's a whole nother issue. But on the Scherzer topic, Buehler's the one that scares me the most. I know the Padres can beat Kershaw. I know they can beat Scherzer. And, you know, it's just about having good at-bats and working those walks and lining the double with a couple guys on and hitting the sac fly. And, you know, maybe you'll get lucky and a reliever will hit a grand slam. But it took so many good at-bats to get to the point where Camarena came up to the plate against Scherzer with the bases loaded. They scored 2 runs that inning before and then loaded the bases, or they scored the second run with the bases loaded. But there were so many good at-bats because Tatis led it off with the homer, and he's the 2-hitter. So the fact it got to the 9-hitter with the bases loaded off Max Scherzer, yes, it's a fluke that he hits the grand slam, and that puts 6 on the board. I get that. That's completely never going to happen again. But it took so many good at-bats by the actual hitters to get to that point where I know they can work good at-bats against these guys, and I trust them to be able to do it in a big game.
Yeah. All right. This has been fun. Ryan Cohen, again, he's on that same level as me, kind of as, you know, as a diehard Padre fan. Great to talk with you. Thank you so much. And we'll do it again, hopefully in October. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude, my pleasure. Anytime. I love talking about the pods. And yes, I would love to talk about it. Let's go deep October. I'm talking like October 20th.
Yeah.
Then we can chat again.
Right. All right.